So our next speaker for this panel is going to be Shir Gruber, who is a program coordinator at Foundation for Environmental Stewardship, as well as the regional director at Sustainable Youth Canada. Shir is a student at McGill University, doing a Bachelor's of Science in Environmental Sciences with a computer science minor, which I think is a great combination there. Shir is the regional director of Sustainable Youth Canada in Montreal, where she creates youth-led environmental initiatives that cater to the local needs and participatory action research. She is equally a program coordinator at the Foundation for Environmental Stewardship, where she works to mobilize youth to move the needle on the Sustainable Development Goals. So those are the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals for humanity. She has 5 years of community activism experience. Her first environmental advocacy project was reforming her college's waste management system in 2017, which is such an important thing. We never think about all the different parts at play in how to progress and move forward with this, and that is a huge one. She is a TEDx youth speaker, as well as an author of academic chapter named A Framework for Grassroots Environmentalism in Academic Settings. So thank you so much for joining with us here today, Shir. Please, it's all yours.
Thank you so much for the lovely introduction. And hello, everyone. I'm just going to start with a land acknowledgement because I think it's appropriate. So I'm situated on traditional territory of the Kenyan-Ke-Haka, a place which long served as a site of meeting and exchange among many First Nations. I recognize and respect the Kenyan-Ke-Haka as the traditional custodians of the lands and waters on which I stand today. I just always think that's really important to acknowledge, as we really are from all over Canada. So yeah, I'll say a little bit about myself. Hi, I'm the Regional Director of Sustainable Youth Canada, as Yusuf so kindly said. At Sustainable Youth Canada, we are demanding bold leadership and climate justice by building capacity for a just transition of society towards sustainability, and advocating for not just systemic change on a municipal or community level, but ultimately, serving as a pilot project or a model for other places. And we, above all, are empowering youth and youth voices, especially those that are not often heard. We really search to uplift. So yeah, I'll say a little bit about some of our programs there. At Sustainable Youth Canada, we do a lot of participatory action research. Now, what is that? It sounds like a mouthful. Well, basically, it means that you're working with the community to do research on something that matters to them, and you're creating change via your research. So often, traditionally, people are very separate from science, right? You're observing versus really interacting with whatever it is that you're researching. So we search to, for instance, if we're doing trash cleanups, we're inviting the community to come and to sort through waste with us and be like, what is there here? How can this impact the ecosystem? And what does this mean for public health, for instance? How do we preserve this green space? And how can we use this data to advocate to the municipal government that they should clean up the space? Or how does this space parallel other places in Canada? So that's just one of our projects, but it kind of gives you an idea of how it's so much more powerful when you're really working with people who are impacted by this. And I really believe that initiatives need to be community-centered and focused. So a few tips, I might just kind of throw them out there for any youth that are listening. Again, the chapter sounds like a mouthful, but I can break down what my chapter says into 3 simple points, which is, if you want to go and you want to change your community and you're saying, what's my step 1? Like, where do I start? I think a really good 3-step framework is assess and engage with your local community. So say you're a student at school, right? So talk to your teachers, talk to your peers, assess like who's interested, who's down to do this with you, and start talking to people. And I would say the next step is create a framework with those people. So like some sort of, unified idea of how you're going to concretely and tangibly assess the baseline. So for example, if we're talking about the waste management project that I did in my college, we decided we were going to do waste audits in the cafeteria in partnership with the college itself. And then with that data, we were able to realize that there's a lot of food waste in the cafeteria. So we advocated for composting. It's really logical, right? And then we actually made it happen. And at first it was a pilot project, and now it's in the entire school. And there's about 10,000 people. So that's just a kind of case study or an example, but you can do that in your school. So that's one thing we do. Another thing we do is advocacy. So how can you leverage, for example, the data, the research that we just said? How can you leverage your voice or your position to uplift others and to make sure no one's left behind? Because really, again, although we're talking about, say, trash in a park, or I mean, there's a lot of examples of mercury and waters that affect people. Like there's so many other examples, but how does this impact people and, for example, public health? And so I guess, how can you shine a light on that, depending on where you come from? We've done open letters and received a response actually with a coalition of other youth from the Ministry of Environment. And we've helped, or I personally helped organize the climate marches in Montreal, which was super, it was just a lot of joy and community to see people come together like that. Way before Greta was coming, you know? Yeah, so, and also, especially, I think Tyler said this really well, with an upcoming election, your voice matters so much more. And again, rumored, alleged election. But I think it's really important to think about how loud we want to be right now, because there's a lot of power in your fingertips. And on that topic, I might transition just to the Foundation of Environmental Stewardship. I work there as well. And they truly are training youth to have these tools and mentoring youth as well on a national scale to move the needle on sustainable development goals. So what are those? They look like, you know, no hunger, having no hunger, or responsible consumption and production. And each one of these goals, as stated by the United Nations, has metrics. And so we're really trying to move the needle on some of those things. And in fact, I guess something that's really useful, if you're hearing all this and you're like, okay, well, you know, fine, I know my first step, but I need funding, or I'm already doing all this and I'm working so hard, but it's overwhelming. Well, you know what, the Foundation of Environmental Stewardship recognizes that this is a lot of hard work. And so they've created a new fund that's a Youth for Youth fund that has been announced today, actually, their press releases today, or our press releases today, for $1.15 million to serve youth. So I would highly suggest checking that out. I think it's going to open for applications in September. So I'll keep it there. And yeah.
That's awesome. Like, I think at the end of the day, those kind of tools that you're talking about are going to have a huge benefit. So just to reiterate for our viewers, like the foundation launched $1 million grant for scholarship for youth to lead their own initiatives and programs. And that will really help jumpstart a lot of the great ideas and initiatives I'm sure that are out there, that are on this call, because it does take resources. It takes networks, it takes resources, and it takes you know, courage. So again, thank you for sharing about the work you're doing. And again, it's amazing, and we appreciate you being on the call today.
Yeah, I might just add one point. One other part of this fund is to acknowledge work that is not traditionally acknowledged. For instance, land protectors or water protectors that are so integral in this fight and have been for so long. So also something to keep in your mind here is this fund is also a means to sort of help these people that aren't usually seen and should be seen more often. So I just wanted to emphasize that.
Thank you so much. It's much appreciated. Merci beaucoup.